and where he talks about the tikkun of Kad Shah Prati, and we'll get into that. So once again, this is a cycle within a cycle. The overlapping of days, and a few things. This is all new. This is like really going back into Star Trek, where we're going into the worlds where we've never been before. So let's see, Tikkun Kad Shah Prati. That's where we're at. One sec. So he says in Befarshim Lamda B'Divra Rashash. The Milvad Seder Atikun, the parts of Kad Shalos Akolo Hanizkar. Besides that, there's something else going on. V'yesh Od Seder Tikkun Pratos. There's also another Tikkun, is specific, which is called Pratos. Now, actually, Pratos here could mean parts, like that. There are different parts. V'hu Nikra parts of Kad Shalos Aprati. V'chaseda B'zera B'chuda B'mesha Kol HaKad Shalos. So now you have 24 hours in the day. There are 4 different bechinos in Zun that we have to make a tikkun on. Ma de ma, which is the male aspect of the male. Ma de ben, the male aspect of the female. Ben de ben, the female aspect of the female, and the ben de ma, the female aspect of the male. So each one of them has a tikkun that takes place, which I assume means, I'm not sure what he means by tikkun, but let's say there's a tikkun there, because that's the overall idea of tikkunim here. But anyway, but parts of ben to ben, so this is part of what you see when you're reading the Rav. In the contradictory idea is that the parts of a ben to ben, so that's at the beginning of the nighttime until midnight. Now the parts of a ben to ma, which is the female aspect of the male, starts switching towards the male side. Because the tikkun takes place after midnight until morning. So that's then when the morning time, it's the full male juice, let's say, or shefa. The parts of ma de ma, the parts of called ma de ma, na'asach atikin ma'alas ha'shachar achatzos yom. The parts of ma de ben, now going to the switching back towards the female aspect of the day, you have the male aspect of the female, na'asach atikin machatzos yom al-laila. Now there's a note down here that we're going to get to, and that's where we were in the middle of that, just trying it out, and let's see how we can understand it. Again, pashtu bezehu, the simple idea of this is what the different these different mochim that are coming in and affecting the partsufim all the days. Excuse me. Shagam Seder Hatikun the Kad Shah Prati Naasa Begimel Yomim. So this also happens during the 3 days. Rak Hu Shoinach Hatikun the Kad Shah, and this is the way he says it. The king the Kad Shah Hakolo Bekach Hakolo Bekach Bekach Shahatikun the Kad Shah Hakolo Naasa Kulu Ke'echad. All of it takes place at one time. So in other words, all the 4 tikkunim, or 3, I don't know how we count, we'll see, take place at one time. B'yomim, Beis, and Gimel. Say, for example, on the second day, you're going to have the first day and the second day. On the third day, you're going to have the first day and the second day. And the third day are all going to reach a tikkun at that point. Gon Shabbalel Yom Sheni Na'azah Ador Mida. This is when you're going to get the Panemius come in. V'chanesiv v'chaziva Dibiyah Rishona. Because Arba Partsufim, and it happens in all the Partsufim of that day. And what are the Partsufim of the day? He says, during that period, let's call it the Nasira, the Dormita time, you're going to get coming in on that day, that's the second day now, the Ma de Ma, the Ma de Ben, the Ben de Ma, the Ben de Ben. You're going to get all of those things when they come about. Now, it's interesting, he started off here where he said he ordered it from the morning. So from the morning, which is Ma de Ma, then he moves into the afternoon. Well, let's see, Ma de Ben, that's not exactly right. So let me go on. I'm not sure how he got his order, or he just put the order in there like that. He said, but the fetus of Paim, the Yom Gimel, then when you finally get to the third day, so all of the three are going to take place at that one time. They're going to have an Acharayim and a Panim and a Yichud that's going to take place at the same time. Masha Ein came beside the Tikkun Prati. That's not what happens at Tikkun Prati. So actually it's an addition on to all of these three different partsufim, which we say like on the third day at Tachlon, or at Filas Apayim, they're all going to come together, they're all going to be manifest there. So he said, again, going backwards, so this happens on each individual day has 4 parts to it. So at the beginning of the second night, Naasas dormita v'nesira v'zivug debir rishona parts of the ben. So first it starts doing that in the parts of the ben. That's going to be at that time. Let me see what else he says here. 1 second. And he goes on and says, halayla, and uv'chitzos halayla, the parts of ben dema v'chein chala, all of them have a different time during the day in which they're going to appear. So the ben is going to appear after nightfall. So once again, each one of them is going to have a time. I'm not sure exactly how this works out, because if you have a yichud that takes place, the yichud takes place in the morning, I would think that the third day is finished. I mean, that's the tikkun. What happens in Mincha and Ma'ariv? What happens there then? I'm not sure. So he said, "V'hinei seder hatikun," the parts of ben dema, that one, the kad shah prati, and the asa bechatzos the boker. So when you say Kriya Shema Shalamita, and after we have this review, we're finishing it soon, and so we'll go back to the back, and they're going to talk about Kriya Shema Shalamita. So Kriya Shema Shalamita, this time this is your Kavana. But when you talk about the rest of the Partsufim, he knows that one, but he's not sure about it. So he says, what is his suffix? Im zivugim elu heim atzman hazivugim and na'asiv b'tefilas hayom. In other words, do they correspond to the 4 different times that we're praying? The parts of ben deben and na'asiv b'tefilas halayla achatzos hu hazivug the kli hachitzon at the same time is considered to be the yichud that takes place of the kli hachitzon and na'asiv b'tefilas arvis, which takes place at Arvis. So you have the ben and the ben, and the tikkun on the tikkun of the chitzonius, and the asabet tefilas Arvis. The seder tikkun the parts of ma the ma. It's going to be in the morning, and the asim also shachar hu hazivuk the kol the kli hapenimir and the asabet tefilas shachris, which is taking place at the tefilas shachris. Seder tikkun the parts of ma the ben, and the asabet chatzas yom ad alayla. So you see the contrast. The Mad Ben goes along with the middle. Oh, Shachazivugim Shalataphilos, or the Zivugim that take place at the Vilu, Hem Zivugim, no Safim Bilvad, Milvadim, or maybe that's just has nothing to do with the. It seems to me that it corresponds, or maybe it doesn't correspond. I'm not sure what that would be, but let's go on. Let me try to do a better job here. B'chol yom nesaknim kama partzufi zun shonim. So this is like the review, winding up this second siman. So he said, "Olim bezecha de b'chol yom naasa tikunim b'kama partzufi zun shonim." So we're hitting zun in different places. V'klalos heim shtei bechinos echod tikun zun aprati and nesakim ba'osel yom. So there is these 4 different tikkunim that take place during the 24-hour period. And nesakim b'shlosha tefilos, and this takes place in the shlosha tefilos. That's a question. Why does he say 3 tefilos? Well, let's see. He says, so he has a note down here, a number ches. Is that a ches? I think it's a ches. So he says, B'shachris Caleb Penima the Yaakov Arachel. In the morning you have Caleb Penima the Yaakov Arachel. B'mintku came with Emsaim Shadachem B'arviz Caleb Gitzanim. So he's really answering my question. He says that you're dealing with the Penimi, the Penimi, and then you're dealing with the Emsoi, and then you're dealing with Hitzoni. That's the three tefillos that he wants to talk about. That's the way he wants to talk. So okay, let's go back over there. And number ches, find the ches again. It is a Revabona Aza B'Kol Yom Seder Tikkun Shalom. So every day in the Tikkun the Prati, there's a complete and total Tikkun that takes place. Hakol Hamshachas Mochin the Ach B'Kriat Shemah Berchos Avos. It incorporates that. V'dormita v'nitzira b'tikun kli v'rucha. So he says that takes place in the second tikkun, second time during the day. B'tevis ba'ava the birchas avos. So that's what takes place there. V'chamshachas mochin depanim b'melech ozer. That's when that starts to come in. Birchas Shmona Esrei, and the Shmona Esrei in general, v'chazivuk b'sim shalom, and then ultimately the yichud takes place at sim shalom. Let's go on a little bit more. Let's see if we can keep trying to understand this. Number base tikkun parts of zuna kolul dekad shao, kol yom nesaknim shlosha partsufin kenisker. So all the three part, the inside, that is the penimi, the middle one, and the middle tikkun, and the outer tikkun. So tikkun ha'ach b'parts of the yom zeh, v'tikkun depanim b'parts of the yom etmol, the next day, v'chazivik ha'prat d'tmol shilshom, and then the specific one, he says the parts of, parts of the yichud. D'tmol shilshom, that comes from 3 days before, what we say, 2 days before. B'zeh gam hatikun dekadshah haprati, and as this each day is going on, within those days there's also going to be a tikun dekadshah haprati. This is the madamaz and the madabens and so on and so forth. So go to the next one. It says Yeshiv hashmuos b'divrei Rabbeinu Arizal. This was the problem, that we had, the Rizal said many different things, contradictory things. Which appear as if they are contradicting each other. Because in any case, we're talking about a parts for a different day. So specifically, when he gets into drush in the nighttime, sometimes it's talking about what's going on at that particular section of the day. And there's those that talk about the tikkun of kadshah klali. So therefore we have to know in any case what parsupim we're talking about. So later on, where we're going to go into Siman Vav, he's going to broaden that idea. What parsufim we're actually talking about, because there is nothing to tell you over there to guide you over to this klal that we got from the RASHASH. Now, where we're going right now is on page Taf Ayin Gimel. So that's where we're at, and we're on Drush Hay in Siman Vav. So let's see what we can make out of Drush Hay, Siman Vav. So I think it goes like this. I had a little trouble following it because of the way the page is divided up. Let's start with Tikkun Anuk B'Bria B'Uvachatzilus B'Pasuki Hine Mitaso Yivarecha V'Yoshevs B'Seser. Now, where are these contained? These Pasukim, they're in Kriat Shema Lamita. So each one of those, we could read again. I mean, I would like to read again. I'm not corresponding. I'm just really working. He says, Tikkun Hanuk B'Bria. We want a tikkun. We're going to talk about a tikkun of the Nuk while she's in Bria. and also in Etzilus. And this takes place in these Pesukim, Hine Mitaso and Yivarechacha V'Yoshe B'Seser, all parts of the Tikkun, not Tikkun Chatzos, the Kriya Shema Lamita. So he says right here, he said, Mavur b'divir Rav the Kriya Shema Lamita, Yesh Desaken as Hanuk B'Bria al Yedei Besuki Hine Mitaso Shel Shlomo. Now he's saying that at this time, Kriya Shema Lamita. So Kriya Shema Lamita, I guess he doesn't mean necessarily Chatzos. He means the time you go to bed when it gets dark outside. That's another place we saw it as Ben to Ben, Ben of Ben. You say that phrase in the Tikkun, again, the Kriya Shema Lamita. And then after that, you're going to make a tikkun for her in Etzilus, b'pesuki yivarechacha. Okay, so he's saying that these pesukim are doing these two things. The first one is he's dealing the Yasaken of Nuk while she's in Bria, because you're going to take this phrase, Hine Mitaso Shlomo. Now that means the bed of Shlomo. So the bed of Shlomo is making a tikkun to the Nuk while she's in Bria. But now she's going to go up into Etzilus, so she's connected to Etzilus. I think he's going to say that. But Etzilus, but Pesuki, but Yivarechacha. So now you're making a tikkun in her in that through those words. So then after that, to make a tikkun, so I'm wondering, before I finish this, I'm sorry, what he means by tikkun. What tikkun is he talking about? How does this tikkun work? We know what the meaning of tikkun is. It builds her in a way that she could really pass the light through, or she could develop the light. So now you put them together with this concept of dwelling in secret. Okay, so first of all, I'm not sure that I remember that, unless it's in the RASHASH Siddur, and he explains it, which I don't think he does. But at any rate, let's go on. He says, Abir Hashem and Sason Sham, the Hanuk Ha'amuro B'Drush Zeh, the Nuk that we're talking about here, he Rachel the Kedev B'Benimim Diyom Sha'avar. Well, this is a really tough one here. Because the Penimim, going through this, he says, that's the Nuk, that's Malchus, which is talking about Dehu Rachel, the Kelim HaPenimim, because on the second day of the cycle, that she's going to be dealing with the Kelim Penimim, the Yom Sha'avar, the previous day, which was the first day, always deals with the Acharim, and the second day with the Penimim. So now the Tikkunim that we're doing here, Be'ez Kriya Shema Shalamita, when you say that Kriya Shema, Ein Heim Na'asim Ke'ez, they're not done, that doesn't really happen now. What does he said like this? That Rachel with the Kelim Penimim, he said the tikkun al-lushim beguvana be'ez kriya shema shalamita ein b'hem na'asa ke'ez. They don't take place at this time. The tikkun doesn't take place. Elam beguvana mosacha be'ez. But now what? Ke'ez al shem ha'asi da'asos la'achar mekan b'chatzas alada b'boker. So let's translate this again. So when this tikkun starts, it doesn't really finish the job. I think that's what he's saying. So now that you're saying it, al Shemah, this is your kavana, he says. Al kain al shem ha'asid, because about the future that you're saying this is going to happen. Lehe'asos la'achar mekan b'chatzas alayla b'boker, that's going to happen after this, after midnight, and also in the morning. This is what happens. After the tefillah of Arvis, Masha'elis Rachel as Kalachol Laleah, and she goes over Rachel Atzma Misma'atis, she becomes much smaller, Ma'at Ma'at, little by little, Ad Shabachatzel Salada Nishlam Mi'uta V'Yoredis the Bria. He says this is the time of Ben to Ben, this is the time that's what's going on. I'll read it again. Dinda Achad Tefillas Arvis, Misha'elis Rachel, this is a process of starting her Yerida. Mishaelis Rachel es kelechol to Leah. She gives all of her kelim to her essence into Leah. For Rachel Atzma, which is the lowest part of Rachel, I guess, although we have different things that we said about that. So Rachel Atzma misma'etis ma'at ma'at, little by little she becomes smaller. Ad shebechatzos alad nishla miuta v'yered is the bria. Okay, that's what happens. So this is the story. Let me get it back here. Where we go? What happens then is you start something new happens, and you have a tikkun that takes place, and the kli v'rucha, v'az ola rachel, and this is what he says. V'az ola rachel l'visha, at that moment, momentarily, or what's the right word? Temporarily. V'az ola rachel l'visha mibria l'atzilus, she goes back into atzilus, l'zdaveg zivug the kli v'rucha, in order to be able to make that yichud over there of the kli v'rucha. So that's the secondary part. She has to come out of bria in order to do that. You're talking here right now. You're saying Kriya Shemah Hamita, and this is part of the Hakavanot that you're going to make a yichud, bring Rachel up from bria in order to make a yichud of the kli v'rucha, which is like for the second day in some ways. I don't know how this goes. Then after that, your red is bechazara the bria ad the boker. She goes back down into bria until the morning comes. Now you're after that. Now you got the chatzos alayla. Older ma'at she starts coming back. This is the let's see, you had the ben to ben, and now this is the ma to ben. So you have she's a comer now. She's coming little by little. Ad boker until you reach the morning. So it says this was all explained in Drush Dalet, which we looked at. So now you come to chakras, I think is what he means. Hamshikin law as a mochem the ach upanim. So she gets the ach of that particular day and the panim for the previous day. Ad shenaasach haziva b'tefilah shmona esrei, until actually a yichud takes place in shmona esrei. Now, not sure how much of this I understood, but I do understand that he's saying that the nook goes down little by little. There are certain particular words that we say in Kriya Shemah Hamita that leads to this. And so maybe I don't know if you have or if you try, but I'm always trying to do the RASHASH on Kriya Shemah Hamita, and I go for long periods where I just say Kriya Shema and the bracha before it, because it's just too confusing. So every time I come back to it, I have a slightly different perspective on what all of those different yichudim that he's making, what he's trying to accomplish there, just by looking at it fresh. That's all. That's what I'm trying now. So anyway, we have the idea of Rachel going down into bria and lending her oros to I guess I don't know what actually she lends to, because she completely goes down into bria. So what does she lend? But she lends some essence of her own to Leah. Now go on. So now we can explain this. Explain it like this. The tikkun to make her whole while she's still in bria. So he says, because we said that before she's in bria when you say that particular part. So I'm just thinking, how can I remember that? So hine mitaso, hu letzorach aliyas aliyos mebria lechatzilus, for the purpose of her coming up from bria into atzilus. That's that phrase. That's what it means. La'achar chatzos alayla. So it's preparing her to be able to have the juice, the energy, to be able to come up after chatzos alayla. V'chatikun the sheni the chagdila. But then the second tikkun is to grow her. B'hiyose ba'olam atzilus is grow her when she's in the olam atzilus. Hana'asa ayedecha besuke yivarechacha. There's a little, the yivarechacha is, birchas kohanim, I'm sorry. Heim letzorach hagdalasa beratzilas lemachar be'es tefillah, and this is also hagdalah that brings her into atzilus, so that for the next day, which is the third day in this cycle, she could have she could have be'atzila the malcha be'es tefillah at the time of tefillah. So he says like this. We'll finish up now. Rav Eliyahu Mishan. I looked him up last night. Just try. I was able to find some about Rabbi Eliyahu Mishan. Bir Ba'ofen Acher explains, and I think he wrote a book called Sfas Emes, but maybe there's somebody else wrote that. There's a Litvak called Sfas Emes, I think. No? Dehim Tefilas Arvis Omedes Rachel Ba'olam Abriya. So now let's go over where is Rachel now? Kamavur B'Drush Rishon Dachazivuk Dashkivenu Na'asa Im Rachel Shebabriya. So I don't really know that. That was apparently in the first drush, and I missed it. Valkain Sarkli the Sachno, so you have to make an effort to be able to rebuild her in Bria. Besuki Hine Mitasa, so you say that phrase, Hine Mitasa. If that use that phrase, and then you use that phrase, and then that's for her a tikkun there, and then to bring her up. So you're going to bring her up, and she gives her kalim to Leah. So, like I say, if she's giving her kalim to Leah, what's going down into Bria? So is it that her kalim she gives to Leah? So therefore, what is going down? Her molchin are going down. Her oros are going down into Bria. That's what I think. So yeah, so but Yered is mat lamata, and she goes down little by little. Al chasos kamavor b'drash daled, as we had before. Okay, so okay, that's it for today on this. So let me just do this little thing.